Hey, what's up, fam? There's a topic that I really wanted to address that has really bothered me over the last few years, and that is with the two new big upcoming pillars of shonen manga, My Hero Academia and Black Clover. People tend to say Black Clover is pretty much a Naruto clone. I don't agree. There are similarities, yes. It's a shonen manga. It's gonna have similarities to other shonen manga. A lot of them take specific things that people really like within the shonen style and try and do their own version of it. It's very obviously the most the largest use to that is probably a tournament at some point in the series. A tournament arc. People really like tournament arcs. It's a very popular concept, but I don't know. I've gathered a couple things that I wanted to kind of discuss really in this video with uh, mainly the main characters, their goal, their rivals, as well as maybe a little bit about their powers uh, and and even the female lead. For one, obviously the most basic kind of thing about the characters, their personality. I will admit, Deku Deku is definitely different than most shonen main characters. He's actually very intelligent. Most shonen main characters aren't very smart. You have some definite exclusions like Ichigo Kurosaki. He's not dumb, but he's not smart. Deku is definitely shown to be more analytical and more intelligent in most cases, whereas Naruto definitely seems kind of stupid, but or Asta also kind of seems that same level of being an idiot. He's actually, if any of those who have owned the official volumes or have seen in the official volumes, he's actually ranked dumbest in his Night Order. So that though I can't see the similarity of, but when you take something like, for instance, their whole goal of you know being number one at their kind of profession. Deku's working to become this symbol of peace hero, and Asta is trying to become the Wizard King. Similar to Naruto wanting to be Hokage, but they're very different positions. Whereas Hokage and Symbol of Peace are more of public appearances, and Hokage very much kind of being like the president. You're more in charge. You don't need to. You have to be more of leadership skills than anything else. But with Wizard King, we'll even get a part about it within the series where as Asta and kind of ask Julius Novachrono what exactly it takes to be Wizard King, and you get a little bit from Claus saying the Wizard King has to have a noble heart and deep trust in people. And as I'm showing here, the Wizard King tells him how it's merit, and you can't protect people with pride alone. Trust comes after you've built up the reputation. People want just one thing from the Wizard King, and that is that the Wizard King is the strongest. He is he literally, all you really need to be the Wizard King is to show that you are the best, show that you're the strongest, show you that they're the number one person for the spot. Let me find that panel. I definitely missed showing that one. It says what they need. What people really want from the Wizard King is achievements that mark you're the strongest, produce results, devote oneself, building reputation. That's everything. Let me pull that up really quick because I actually forgot that part. Let me pull that up from my video, my impromptu video that I decided to make out of nowhere. All right, yeah, slightly embarrassing part, but whatever. Let me show what I'm kind of talking about. As I said, no one, as he says, no one who's unable to do that could ever stand at the top. Wizard King is really just a mark of who's the strongest. You just have to be the most powerful, and really make it so that people feel safe. Symbol of Peace has a similar thing of trying to make the people feel like they're protected, but it does seem like it has a lot more of a position to the people in public appearance as well, on top of being the strongest. But obviously, with the Wizard King, and it's very different. It just is who's the best, who's the strongest, who's number one, who's going to protect the people. It's much less of a political and PR kind of spot. But I'd say that Symbol of Peace and Wizard King are much closer related to each other than they are to Hokage, because we see in later we see in Naruto multiple times with people like when Tsunade was Hokage and when Kakashi was Hokage that you don't need to be the strongest to be the Hokage. You really just need to have the most leadership skills. You just have to be able to manage and kind of direct the village the best it needs to be. But that's yeah, that's kind of different from the overall goal and position. But whereas it's not just that position of the two of them kind of going towards, the two of them, the three of them kind of going towards their goals. A different kind of thing between them is whereas Naruto wanted to be Hokage, Deku wanted to be a hero, and Asta wanted to be the Wizard King. Only Asta out of them kind of was going for that without any form of falter. And what I mean by that is Naruto wanted to be Hokage, but he was much more. He worked way more on pulling pranks, working on jutsus that were more comedic and silly. It's like a sexy jutsu. He didn't try as hard to make up for that, for his weaknesses and his faults, until he was kind of pushed by Iruka and I forgot the dude that he beat up in the first chapter, the dude with the giant shuriken, whatever his name is. Similar to Deku. Deku wanted to be a hero, but he had no quirk. And it wasn't until he kind of got pushed by All Might and had this power saying dangled in front of him, saying, "Hey, yeah, here you can have this to be a hero. You just have to work hard for it to work, and then you'll be able to achieve your dreams." And Asta stayed, as I'm showing here, 100%, trying over and over and over to compensate for his weakness, his lack of magic, wanting to be the Wizard King without magic. And I think that is a huge thing that sets him apart from Naruto and Deku. He's very much more like Rock Lee in that matter. So I'm always confused why people, when they want to make a Naruto comparison, they say they say Asta and Naruto. Why don't they? It would make way more sense to say Asta and Rock Lee, because they both kind of have this whole thing where Rock Lee and can't perform ninjutsu or genjutsu, and Asta doesn't have magic, so they both just work on their physical prowess to compensate for it. It's one of those weird things, and it makes more sense when it comes down to Deku and Asta, spread apart, because technically Naruto didn't even need to be a competent ninja to become Hokage, as we saw. Even though Kakashi had a large reputation post the end of Naruto, moving into the kind of time skip that showed up and that led up to Burrito, not Boruto, it's Burrito. That he lost his Sharingan, and he lost his ability to do most of his jutsus, and he was definitely far weaker. And there were tons of people within the village that are stronger than him, and Kakashi kind of got put into this ninja crippled kind of position where he wasn't able to do most of the things that made him as strong as he was. If Naruto grew up with very poor ninja abilities, but he just developed skills in leading in political position, he probably could have became Hokage, regardless, perfectly honest. And with Deku didn't need a quirk to become a hero. We know this from the My Hero Academia Vigilante spinoff. We have Knuckle Duster, who is, if you've read the spinoff, he is one of the honestly most determined and probably one of the most accomplished heroes in the series. Like he's taken down a fair amount of villains, and he has no quirk at all. For those who have read My Hero Academia Vigilante, you know what I'm talking about. It's either I think it goes by Vigilante and Illegals. I think Vigilante is the correct translation, but Knuckle Duster doesn't have a quirk. He's got no powers. He's a pretty well accomplished hero, and on top of just that, we know that there's tons of crazy tech within the My Hero Academia universe that Deku could have utilized to become a hero in his own right, but he didn't. It wasn't until, similar to with Naruto, somebody pushed him to get closer to his goal in order to actually move towards it, and that is a big gap between those two and Asta, whereas Asta didn't need anybody telling him what to do in order to get what he was pushing towards. There are more in terms of the overall plot of this series. For one instance, is that you have is their powers. Though Naruto did have his powers from the start. Obviously, he still had his ability to do jutsu. He just had very poor training. Asta and Deku were born without. Asta having no magic and Deku having no quirk. Both of those were handled in their own kind of different way. But as I said, one of them actually tried, even though they were born without, to move towards their goal without having to have a similar situation with Naruto. Because Naruto, obviously, without that first kind of push with Iruka, and I can't remember that Shuriken guy's name, and his kind of push there too, which gave him his signature, multi-shadow clone jutsu, would have probably stayed the same little piece of shit, and then worked his way up into just becoming a degenerate. And it was thanks to that push that really helped him in the long run. And don't get me wrong, I'm not talking negatively about Naruto. I'm just pointing out the similarities between the two series of My Hero Academia and Naruto that exist more towards those two than Black Clover and Naruto. And then you have things like their rivals, Sasuke being much more like, Deku being much more like Sasuke than Yuno is to Sasuke. Bakugo has that same kind of, natural talent. Obviously, Sasuke, for those who obviously know about Sasuke, it's not like he doesn't train. He definitely trains, but he definitely has a lot more, born talent than most people. He definitely picks up things more than most people and is able to able to catch on and figure things out more than most other kids his age. Same thing with Bakugo. Bakugo was born with a really good quirk. He was able to think up multiple ways to use it, where it took a long time for other kids his age to kind of have the same utility idea of what to do with their abilities, whereas Bakugo had been doing it the whole time. But both of them had this kind of crisis within the series, where they didn't see the main character as their rival. They both saw them as feeble, insignificant people who shouldn't be allowed to call them rivals, and that's a big part of their character. Deku kind of saw Bakugo as a friend, but Bakugo was kind of insulted at the idea of Deku being his rival, because Deku kind of was like this sniveling, insignificant guy for the longest time. And even in the whole part with Naruto and Sasuke fighting in Final Valley, he does the whole I'm more special than you part, and that kind of revealed a little bit about his character, but you don't you don't really get that from And I'll kind of get to that when I talk about Bakugo a little bit. And Bakugo kind of has that same thing. Is he kind of was pissed off about Deku kind of looking to him like he's an equal, um, and not really happy that he was catching up to him. He didn't like the idea that somebody who was below him for so long, kind of being able to, uh, kind of being able to catch up and be near its level. Whereas someone with for those who have read or watched Black Clover, has honestly more confidence in Asta than Asta does in himself. Seems to have a very high opinion of Asta. He's very happy when he sees that his rival is has grown in strength, whereas it took a long time for Naruto or for Sasuke to kind of see Naruto in that rival position. Same thing with Bakugo to Deku. Saw Asta as his rival from the start, and kind of uses the Asta's position of growth and determination as motivation to get him make himself stronger. And we get that with in right before the Royal Magic Knights uh, arc, that he sees Asta in his anti magic demon form. He's got the black arm and the creeping anti magic clad to his body, and I believe that's where kind of got the inspiration for his spirit dive. We see constantly whenever they show up after gaps in time. You get like 20 to 30 chapters, and there's a whole arc separating them between each other. And when they meet back up, always tries to test Asta's strength, such as after the altercation with the capital invasion, and there was that little gap of period of time that led up to that little cave arc with the Eye of the Midnight Sun. We had the first thing do is he attacked Asta to kind of both test him and taunt him. The same thing once they were at the announcement for the Royal Magic Knights exam, to kind of like check people who were insulting them for being peasants. Immediately charged up an attack and attacked Asta, wanting to also see if he was capable of stopping it, which showed both of them as being very powerful, very capable in the process. And it clearly makes him very pleased to see his rival within level to him. And you get that as an actual rivalry, very very healthy like respect between the two of them, whereas it was very one-sided with Naruto to Sasuke and Deku to Bakugo. It isn't just the main character and the rival. You also kind of get that with the female leads. Oh god, this picture's way too big. Sakura being really reduced to a screaming damsel, and Gravity honestly just becoming a background support character who has very little overall purpose to the arc. I think the series is getting close to 4 years now, and Gravity hasn't had, I don't think, any like real 1v1s. She had like a scuffle with Bakugo, who I don't see going all out. She was giving it her all, but he kind of seemed to not really take her that seriously. It really, to me, it seemed more like an element of surprise kind of thing, where he just wasn't expecting what she was doing, and she kind of had that advantage on him. But she really hasn't had like a 1v1 fights some competent villain and then has that hero moment where she gets to be really cool. It's mostly been stand in the back and be like crowd control and support. She really needs to have her own fight. And similar to how Sakura just became more of yelling and really annoying in part 1 Naruto, she got to have a little bit of spotlight in once part 2 happened. But after that defeat with Sasori, she went back to really just being a shitty background character. Whereas Noelle definitely has that. She definitely operates more as a support. I will admit, she operates more as a support right now in the series because she has poor magic control, but she does have at least one attack spell right now. She has absurd firepower in comparison to a lot of the other characters, and she has a ton of hype around her. Those who don't know, those who don't read the series, there is the strongest captain is her name is Mary Leona Vermilion. She's the older sister of Fuego Leon Vermilion, who is the knight captain that got his arm got all fucked up, had his arm torn off in the capital invasion arc, and he's all comatose and he's kind of he's out of action. You remember him, the Fire Lion guy that got fucked up. His older sister later takes his place. She's the strongest out of the 9 captains, but she talks about how Noel's mother, I think her name is, I'm trying to remember how to pronounce her name. It's like Ashi Silva, not Silver, Silva. She was the most prominent female magic knight she'd known, and Marileona talks about how no matter how many times they fought, she never was able to win against Noel's mom. So though she has overall right now a support role, she kind of has like a support with like a super heavy dosage of attack power. She has a lot of height that will lead her up into a more powerful position, whereas Gravity has really just been placed as a crowd control support character, hasn't had a whole lot to do within the series. Same thing with kind of where Sakura was placed. And one more point I wanted to really get to is, honestly, within the first chunk of the series, within the first I think 200 chapters of both the first 100 chapters of Naruto, or of My Hero Academia, first, and then around like 160 I think for both for Naruto and for Black Clover. Black Clover was around the late 140s, early 150s. Naruto was around I think 180, and My Hero Academia was around like 70. So actually, yeah, I don't know why I'm trying to act like there's some chapter number relevance, but within one of the arcs you have, this is just a specific kind of arc thing. I'm gonna touch that, and then I'll talk about real quick character powers, and then I'm gonna be done. These two are just quick bits. As you had, the main villain at the time, the big villain I'd say at the time, Orochimaru sending his goons to abduct Sasuke. You want All For One, the League of Villains, and All For One kind of wanting Bakugo, sending his goons to abduct him. Whereas with it was more he was one of many people chosen to be vessels for the reincarnation of the elves. That's just a small thing. That's just one thing that kind of like tipped up on my mind as I was making this video. But one other thing I just wanted to kind of mention is the lack of control with the character's powers. With Naruto, he had the Nine-Tailed Fox. If he didn't have proper control over the Nine-Tailed Fox's chakra when using it, he kind of got into this mode that was too powerful for him. The whole bit of the Nine-Tails chakra kind of being dangerous. From what I remember, it like burns your skin from the properties of it, as well as Deku not having control of his quirk kind of like fucks up his arms, breaks bones, tears muscles, really kind of puts him in a crippling state. Both of them have these powers that, if they don't control properly, will hurt them in the process. They're very double-edged swords. They can be very useful, but they can also be very detrimental. Asta's powers doesn't do that. For really his power though is he's kind of different. For Deku with All For One became much more powerful. He was able to go from a normal, like a wimpy kid's strength to having superhuman strength. Naruto, for the most part, in the beginning, kind of used the Nine-Tailed Fox's power as a boost at times. It really changed the fight a lot of the times. He could have been a ninja without it, because we obviously know about the whole thing about the Uzumaki having giant chakra pools. But he couldn't have accomplished a lot of his things without the Nine-Tailed Fox's chakra. And so you had two similar cases of both of them kind of needing this more OP power that's special to them to kind of achieve their goals. Asta is... It kind of is, but kind of isn't with Asta. You kind of get this whole point early in the beginning of the series that Asta's anti-magic powers, his anti-magic swords, he uses them more as tools. They don't benefit him as a being outside of the use of these tools. and for at least the start, changes later on when he learns to use them in more ways. But for the most part, throughout the beginning of the series, his speed, strength, durability, all were based off of his physical training, how hard he worked to kind of compensate for his lack of magic. When we see him go up against Seki in the little round of the of auditioning to be in one of the Magic Knight Orders, the level of speed that he was able to put off to where people thought he was using enhancement magic was just physical strength. It was just like the level of power he was able to output from his muscles, from how hard he worked. And that's just kind of a small bit. Is they have similar, like Naruto and Deku have kind of similar powers that kind of got them to were they able to achieve of a power that was kind of given to them, whereas Asta, though his power was also in a similar way given to him, it wasn't as detrimental to showing his strength until later on. For the most part, a lot of the things he did, he would have been able to accomplish on his own with his own results of training and hard work. The only difference was in times where he had to use anti-magic to, like cut and block and attack. But, the damage that he took from set attack, if he wasn't able to, was, his body was able to take that level of damage because of the training he did, not because he had the anti-magic. The anti-magic really just kind of made it so he could negate or deflect an attack, but if you subtracted the need to negate and deflect an attack, he could still move at speeds and tank attacks given his own physical body strength. So those situations are similar but different in a couple weird ways. But I want to wrap this up. This was just not short, not as in-depth as I planned to go on. Maybe one day in the future. This was kind of just a little mashup of my feelings towards Asta being less like Naruto than Deku is, with Black Clover being less like Naruto as a series, with My Hero Academia being much closer to the build of Naruto than Black Clover is, kind of in a way. Yeah, I ramble on a little bit in those matters, but I'm gonna wrap this video up. I don't know. Drop some comments on your opinion. I know this is kind of a hot topic within the anime and manga community, with these two series, My Hero Academia and Black Clover, being similar in some areas to Naruto. But I don't think that's a big deal. It's more about execution than having a similar idea. Because if you really want to get down to it, Ash Ketchum had Naruto beat for years. But whatever. Thank you very much. Check out my other videos, like, favorite, subscribe. As I keep asking, drop some comments on your opinion. I like to hear the people's opinions on this. But yeah, thank you very much. Have a nice Tuesday, I guess. I don't know how anyone can have a nice shitty Tuesday, but whatever. Thank you very much. Bye.